Welcome to Rise and Shine Daily Business Tech Boost with me, Charly Leetham. If you're a small business owner looking to simplify technology and get real, actionable advice from someone with 35 years of IT experience, you're in the right place. Every episode, I'll dive into tools and systems like email, CRM, marketing and tracking, and break them down into bite-sized tips you can use right away. Your time is valuable, so let's get straight to the point. It's time to work smarter, not harder. Rise and shine. It's your daily dose of business tech inspiration with me, Charly Leetham. Episode number 521 today. Responding to a question I got through my help desk from a client. I've responded to the client directly, but it was a really good question that I thought I should address here. And the question was, I have these old databases on my server. So they'd gone into their server admin, they'd looked at the databases, and there's all these databases, and they've got one site. Now, one site uses one database. Typically, I've got to be very careful here. One site uses one database, typically. Do I need all these databases? Now, the answer is maybe and maybe not. This is not something that I can answer just by looking at the screenshot or even just getting in and looking at the databases, the list of databases themselves. What typically happens, okay, I'm just trying to put this into, because there's a couple of ways this occurs. First of all, when you create a website or a WordPress website, let's just talk about WordPress websites to begin with. When you create a WordPress website, it will create a database for that website, for that installation. If you create another WordPress website, it will create another database. And if you create another one, it will create another database. So when you go and look at your database list, if you've created 3 sites, you've got 3 databases there. It is not necessarily immediately obvious which database is for which installation. We need to look at the config files to be able to determine which databases each site uses. When you delete a WordPress website, depending on the process you go through, it may or may not remove the database or the database user from your server settings. Now, what that means is that, yes, you've got rid of your data, you've got rid of the files, you've got rid of the installation, or the physical installation on your server. There is still the physical component of the database sitting there, but you've got rid of that bit where people can get in and hack files to get in, but you've still got a database sitting there. It is less of a security risk to have that database sitting there and not used. It is still a minor security risk. And if you really want to be clean and if you really want to be puristic about it, and I recommend that you do this, you need to actually make sure that the database is removed when you do it. The problem is knowing which database to remove. Now, that's not something that is easily answered just by sitting here and saying, oh, just go in and look at the database, it'll tell you. The way I do it, and I'm sure there are other ways of doing it, is first of all, if the site hasn't been deleted, I check the config file on the site itself, find out which database and which database user it's using, and then go in and manually delete those using the server admin functions. If the files have been removed and I can't access a config file, I then, well, if there's active sites on the site, I can go on the server, I can go and look at the config files for those, note down the databases and usernames they're using, go, well, these are the ones I can't delete. There is a high possibility I can delete everything else. Then to double check that, I actually go in, I open the database itself. I might use a tool called PHP My Admin. Go and open the database itself, find the options table, and then look for the line item in the table that says this is who this site was for. This is the site this database was for. Then I can go and delete it. Once I know once I have confidence that this site is no longer being used or this database is no longer being used, I can get rid of. I can delete it. It's always a bit of a gamble. I just had another thought as I was saying that, so I'll come back to that one. It's always a bit of a gamble in doing that. Now, it's an educated gamble. It's a highly, highly educated gamble. But there's always a bit of a risk that I've read it wrong. There's always a bit of a risk that we've got it wrong. So how do we fix that? Well, what we do is we take a backup of that database to begin with. We use the server tools, we take a backup of the database, we download it locally. Then we delete it. And if it's wrong, we can at least re-import it and make sure that it's working again. The other thing that I mentioned is the database users. So when a database is created, a new user is created for that database. Now, what is a user? The user is the entity. No, it's not a person, it's a digital thing. It's the entity, it's the thing that has access to that database to do everything that needs to be done to run that site. It has specific permissions associated with it to access that database to run that site. It is a very good security tool to do it that way. Don't try and use one user across multiple databases. That way lies madness. I've done that before. I've tried that before. Just in a hurry, like I'll just use this user and I've just got to run up a site real quick. I'll just use this user and then I've gone and deleted the user because I haven't been paying attention or that user's only used on this database. That's fine. I've deleted it. I don't need it. Oops, I've just taken a site down. So yeah, typically there's one user per database. When you delete the database, you should also go and delete the user. There are server tools to do all this. I'm not going to actually tell you how to do it. This is where you really should have a techie, a webby, someone like myself to come and help you do this, to make sure that you get it right, to make sure that it's documented properly and that you've got your backups and that when you go and do your deletions, it's all there. The reason I want to raise this though is that sometimes you'll think I'm going to listen to what Charly says and I'm going to go and have a look and see what's on my server. And then you're going to look and see, I've got all these databases, I've got all these users, are they necessary? The answer is they might be. The answer is possibly not. You will need to dig down, and I would recommend keeping documentation of which site uses which database and which user is allowed to use that database. Alrighty, that's kind of a long-winded, more esoteric one today. I wanted to address it though, because the question I got was, should I delete these databases? And my answer was, you need to go and have a look at the databases and see which sites they actually are for. I know you had a couple of sites on there. You need to determine whether you've still got those sites active. If you don't have the sites active and you've removed them, you need to remove the databases and the users that go with them. How do you do that? That's another level of complexity on top of that, or beneath that, digging down into it. But the point is that, yeah, my gut feel is if they know whether those databases are in use or not, and if they're not, remove them. If only for security issues. Other than that, they also take up space on your server, and that space might become a premium for you at some point. Just some thoughts for you. Tell me what you think, guys, in the comments, wherever you're watching or listening to this video. If this has been helpful, I know it's been more of an esoteric one. If this has been helpful, please leave a like for me. I'd really appreciate that. And if you haven't already, please do subscribe to the channel and ring the notification bell so that you find out when I drop more content. And also, why don't you come across and join me on my locals community, askcharlyleetham.locals.com. You can ask me questions like this all the time over there. Thanks, guys. Bye. Hey there, thanks so much for tuning in to Rise and Shine, your daily business tech boost. I hope today's episode gave you some actionable insights that will make your business tech work smarter for you. If you found value, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with other small business owners who could use a daily boost. For more tips, tools, and resources, visit www.askcharlyleetham.com. Until next time, keep rising, keep shining, and let's make tech simple together.